Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is episode 3 of Magnificent by Design. And today I have with me Tracey Whittet. Tracey is a healer, an intuitive guide, and an energy healer, intuitive guide, and a channeler. Tracey lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and she shares her unique gift with her clients called the Transmosis Healing. And we will, of course, talk in more detail what that is. But for now, we'll just start with some questions, and I'll let Tracey talk a little bit about kind of how, I guess, you came into doing this work. Because I know you've done work in corporate, you have a very rich background, having done a lot of different things. So it's always fascinating how things, happen in people's lives. So welcome, Tracey.
Great to be here. Yeugenia. It's so great to be here. Thank you. So do you want me to talk about Transmosis now? Okay.
Transmosis Healing, or how you came to be the energy healer and intuitive guide and a channeler, because all of these things are so fascinating.
Well, I've always been interested in energy work because I've always been interested in improving myself and feeling more comfortable in my own skin. And I just seem to have a natural affinity towards energy work. And it was a long time ago, it's 1983, a neighborhood teacher suggested that I take Reiki. So that was my first introduction into energy work. And one day I lived in Colorado, and I was working with someone in my sunroom, and I had my hands on her torso. I was just doing Reiki, and I heard the word transmosis. So I wrote it down on the whiteboard, which was behind me, so I could remember it, because you're kind of in a space when you're doing that. And nobody could tell me what it meant. Like channelers, people that should know maybe, but it was a special message for me or something like that. So I started researching like trans for transformation, things like that. And osmosis, it's going through a membrane and all that stuff.
Yes.
So I just asked Spirit one day, what does transmosis mean? And I don't talk like this, but this is the sentence I got. And that's why I like to read it, because it's just different. Transmosis is an unconscious transfer and assimilation of higher energies to raise the recipient's energy to equal the source energy.
Wow.
So I don't talk like that. So I knew it was channeled information or from Spirit. And so I kind of just had to trust. And that's my biggest thing, is to trust. So I trusted what that was about. And then, of course, a beautiful cyber security company got that URL, so I couldn't use it. And so it's kind of morphed into like Transmosis Healing, because that's pretty much what it does. It's like source comes through the client. We call in 100% pure divine light, and we call in my guides of 100% pure divine light. And then we ask, show us what is, like in Yeugenia's highest and greatest good. And then it's kind of like my voice, that's how it's unique, is like I share what I hear and I see. But of course, the client, you, whoever, tells me what you want to work on physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And then I've taken lots of energy work classes. And this most recent one was called Multidimensional Body Balancing. And there are many, many areas within the physique, within the anatomy, where energies can get stuck in the past. And so there's lots of light phrases and this and that. And so I just kind of like tune in and ask what is in your highest and greatest good with 100% pure divine light. I really want to stress that, because the first time I had a clearing, Vicki waited. She called in my guides of 100% pure divine light. And I'm like, what's going on? Because she was really silent for a really long time. And she said, oh, that's because there's a changing of the guard. I'm like, what? I always thought I was working with, really pure high frequencies. But I think that if we don't state it, it might not happen. So that's one of the greatest gifts I learned, was to call in 100% pure divine light, even if you intend it, and as I had before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it just, transmosis is like spiritual hygiene. And, and I do have anatomy background. I do have that physiology, that knowledge. And what I learned in my course, which seems to happen with everybody that I work with, it's like, what's the issue? Lots of times it's the ancestral lineage of the DNA of the mother and the father.
Mm-hmm.
Energy, trauma, things, whatever happened that got stuck in the past, when we clean up those energies with violet consuming flame or the purple transmuting flame. There's all these colors. Once you clear everything out, then you heal and seal it with liquid golden lights, because, you know, the universe likes a vacuum and you don't want anything negative to fill that back up now that you cleaned it all up.
Absolutely.
And then you anchor it and hold it with divine love. And so we forget how powerful we are. We are so powerful through the spoken word, through our thoughts, through our feelings. I kind of get that we are God embodied. I mean, we are the expression of the divine. But we don't think like that, right? I didn't. I never have before, because I didn't want to think I was conceited or, oh, you're all that in a bag of chips, you know, all of that stuff. It wasn't that. It was just like the truth. We are human, but we're also divine. It's like that consciousness that makes the wind blow, that beats our heart. I mean, it's bigger than us. It's bigger than me. And I thought I was in charge, but I'm not. So Transmosis really seems to help people in a very unique way. It's like going on a soul journey. Like when you used to have your parents read you a story, your imagination, you can imagine the red barn or the this or the that is being described. And it's like soul homeopathy also, just trying to find some words that might clarify what transmosis means. Because I was kind of thinking, oh my God, this is a made up word. And then I had a dear friend, she said, no, it's a divinely appointed word. I'm like, okay, I'll buy that. Because it kind of explains it. It cleans you. It's like cleans you up so that you can be really whole and who you are and not stuck in the past, because we're all trying to be in the present moment. But then
Absolutely.
we might have these operating systems in the background that we aren't even conscious of. So when you clean it up with light and the sound through your voice, or it's co-creation, both of us talk or share, but usually the person just goes into this lovely dream space and I record it and then I send it to them so they don't have to pay too much attention and take notes and things like that. So it's very unique, and it's just, I want to be able to teach it someday, you know, teach the basics so that people can heal themselves. You know, we might contemplate or meditate in the morning, brush our teeth, take a shower, but do we think about our energy fields and our bodies? So.
Wow, this is so fascinating. And there's so many questions I have for you. I mean, thank you so much for sharing, because when you shared with me what you do when we first met, I didn't feel like I needed an explanation what transmosis healing was, just because intuitively, it felt like something really deep and more on the cell level than anything. And, I have family constellations training, so I get it that the ancestral energy can really have an effect on us, and the field can impact our lives and our connections with others. And so it's fascinating to hear, because my previous interview was with a family constellations facilitator and a friend of mine who does this work. So it's kind of interesting how I didn't even think that transmosis healing could do that, but I can totally see how that energy needs to be transformed. And like you said, that this is the healing. Like now people talk about way more than ever about our energy field and how important it is to think the thoughts that we want to bring up or that help our vibration to be, high, to be higher, and to live in a different, maybe in a different place, or not kind of be as negative. Now, how do you channel? I guess this is the first question, because it sounds so fascinating. And if there's, I don't know if there's any way, because I'm sure this is such a natural thing. And does that come to you in words? Because when you read that paragraph of what transmosis healing is, just curious, maybe a few sentences on how information comes to you. And that's just from someone, I kind of do intuitive coaching. So a lot of information comes to me, but it's more in this claircognizance. So I kind of know.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come to me in words or through channeling. So I'm always fascinated how that happens. If there's anything you can share about that.
I think really what it is intuition and connection to the divine. And for me, I think I'm more clairaudient. Like it sounds like my own thought, but again, it's sometimes at a different frequency or sound level. Like it's, like they talk about that still small voice. It's similar to that. And when you ask questions, the energy expands. So when I work with someone, or even when I'm in conversation with you, I might hear something in my thoughts.
Yes.
Then I will share it as if it's just natural, normal conversation, because it is. But sometimes you get information differently, like sometimes it's visual, and I don't really see energy with my eyes open. Sometimes I'll see pinpoints of light, and I know I'm on the right track. And this was in the early 80s. I remember being at Xerox in corporate America, and somebody would be talking to me and they'd say something, and all of a sudden this dark dot would show up, and I'm thinking, they just thought a negative thought, or they were just judging something about what they said. I mean, I could tell, like, it was back then, it was black and white. It was like, if it was a pinpoint, like a little star, then it was like, yes, this is positive. This is great information, you know? But when it was dark, I interpreted it to be a negative thought or a judgment or something lower frequency. But now, like when I work with someone out, you know, we call in 100% pure divine light. And then I'll ask, show me where to start. And I'll just kind of hear mother side of the family, 50 generations back or whatever. And then I just do my sequences and my protocols that I've been trained, or what I hear. And I have a clairvoyant friend who really does see everything with her eyes open or closed. And she was my client, and she said, oh my gosh, everything that you are saying is happening. And it was like such a clarification or a trust or a confirmation that I'm not making this up, that I'm like a messenger for in between the soul and the divine and what would help them. And, you know, it's so interesting sometimes, because the client will say, I want to work on this, 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 and this. And it's like, I'm doing energy work. How am I going to clear that physical issue? But, you know, sometimes these wounds and disconnects happen in our soul body or our mental body that is more refined, and it finally manifests physically if you think certain things over and over again, or, you know, as a simple example. And I think it's a trust walk, especially for me, that trusting what I'm sharing and hearing is really happening. And for my friend, the clairvoyant, to tell me that it actually was happening, it's like soul homeopathy. It's like the soul goes on this journey, like I'm telling a short story, but we might be working on your nervous system in the astral body, and we'll put you in the holographic fight or flight room and pull the energy down. So like the sympathetic's not always on, and the parasympathetic pull it down. And then we reset everything with light and anchor and hold it. And I don't know how it works, but it seems to really work. People feel so much better. And if we're whole, if we're in wholeness, we're not fractured and split in all these different wounded directions and things. If we can just be healed and become whole, and then just connect to the divine, if we follow the energy that's light, then our life gets better. And it's when we go against our gut and our own knowing that it doesn't work. So I had someone, I'll throw out another word called chinning. I was like, she goes, you don't channel, you do chinning. And I was thinking talking, you know, with my chin. And she said, you go up and get the information. It doesn't come down to you like channeling. It's like, I'm not channeling a being. I'm just working with the energies of 100% pure divine light and allowing what comes through this one voice that's probably for the many. And I don't know what it means. I don't have an agenda for what happens for the person. I'm not going to create karma for somebody, you know. I don't want to take over and make this change kind of a thing. So yeah, I am on the receiving end, and I'm just the messenger. It seems to be very effective. So intuition is what it is, I think.
Wow, it's incredible. I mean, and I've experienced your work just very briefly, and I'm looking forward to experiencing it soon. But when you've cleared my, you know, that issue that I had when we met, and I felt such an incredible light and release from the headache that I had. And I felt the energy just dissipate because you were doing some things. So I guess, I mean, I'm a total believer. It's just, and it's also, there's just, it's also in your energy field, this pure, um, there's this strength, but there's also this love and warmth that radiates from your personality that I just find is so magnetic. Um, but yeah, and there's also this element of just you being so natural at this work, which I find is totally is just incredible. Right, considering, like I said, kind of your story, and maybe you can briefly talk a little bit about your kind of your background and
Yeah.
how you started also taking these courses. Because I find some people are natural channelers or healers, and it sounds like you had a natural gift, but you also gravitated and kind of learned some things. I'm sure I'm imagining this would be around the the different energy bodies and kind of some other things. So can you talk a little bit more about kind of how you went into some of the studies to support this work? And
Yeah. In 83, I took Reiki, and they said, if you don't use it, you lose it. And 10 years later, I thought, oh, I haven't used it. I better take the class again. And I love to learn, so it was no problem. So I took Reiki 1 and 2. And then I realized I didn't really need to take it again. And then I took Reiki 3, and I just kept going because it was a natural. I think it's really the motivation is I wanted to heal myself. And if I could heal myself, then I could assist others. And I don't really know, it's almost like being a fish in water. You don't know you're in water. You don't know that you're intuitive, and things like that.
yeah,
And I wanted to fit in because I never did. I never fit in. I was always different. I knew I was different, but I didn't want to be different. I was like not embracing myself, right? And the shadows and the gifts and all of that. And I would work in corporate America. Well, that's just not my nature, but I did it forever. And I was good at it. Maybe it's that Capricorn moon thing, just do it. And I learned how to act in that environment. But at night or on the weekends, I was with my spiritual friends, and we were doing energy work and learning things and listening to channels and all of that. But I didn't bring that into the corporate world because I have discrimination ability. And then, some people would receive it and want it, and I would clear their chakras like we did with you. And that's what nurses do, the healing touch. So I've kind of combined all of these techniques. But what I learned, one day I was driving to work and I heard, call Vicky. So I'm like, no, I wasn't following my guidance. But then finally I did, like the week later, I'm like, fine, I'll call Vicky. And this is this lovely woman that lives on my way to work. And I would always go the back road. So she's like on a farm, and she's beautiful. So I called her, and of course her outgoing message said, hi friends, we're out camping. But if you want an energy clearing, call Jean. So I'm like, oh, she does energy clearings? It's kind of close to my birthday. Maybe I'll give that to myself. So I called Jean, and we did work at Vicky's house, and she had a dome. It was a really cool geometric shaped building. And what I realized is that Vicky and Jean, who are my teachers for the multidimensional body balancing, they gave structure to what I was doing naturally. They kind of gave form to what I was doing naturally. And the naturally is just sharing what I hear and I see, but just trusting. And like they would say, so who are your guides? And it's like, I don't know, and that was so interesting when they had that changing of the guard and everything. So it's like, wow, this is really important. And the reason I know that is there was this course I took called Dream Walker. And it was a course to train you to assist people who are dying in terminal illness care in hospice to go to the other side. And in that workshop, I heard my godfather's voice, and he was like from Tennessee, so he's real kind of twangy and stuff. No offense to anyone listening, but he'd go, hi, honey. And I was like, and I knew a spiritual law was you have to ask 3 times and they have to tell you the truth. And I'm like, are you Uncle Joe? It's like, yeah, I'm him. Are you Uncle Joe? Mm-hmm. Are you Uncle Joe? And then it was silence. And I was like, oh, you got to go. So there are energies out there that are tricky. And I've learned to call in 100% pure divine light. It's most important. I know it is because I've had that my own inner experience with it. So I was basically guided there by spirit to do this work, or I would just get excited. It's like, oh, I'll take UN method. What's that? Or I'll just check out matrix energetics. What's that? Access consciousness. Cool. Change is easy. Okay, let's do that. And so I just had a natural affinity to it. I just like it. And we're all energy.
Yes.
It's just somehow I know now that I'm not doing the corporate America thing, that I can 100% be who I really am. Like people say, who are you? What do you do? It's like, oh, well, I'm an energy worker. I do energy work, and then sometimes they look at you like you have 3 heads, but that's okay.
Yeah, and I think those maybe are not the people that you'd be working with, but I'm sure, and I know that you've got a lot of people who are actually gravitating towards your work, and you've helped quite a few people. So I think the more people are expanding their mind, right, their consciousness, the more they're going to be ready for this work. And I think we're moving towards that. And hopefully, through some of these channels like of information and the podcasts and you sharing your work more, I'm hoping that it will touch more people. And I know it will. And I also am excited about the teaching part. Yes. For you to teach others, because it's like that expression, right? Whether to give a man a fish or teach them to fish. Yes. I think that it's like you said, it's this energy hygiene that's so important for each one of us. And can you talk a little bit more about what you're planning and if there's any timing around the teaching that you're thinking? I know you said you're working on something.
What I'm struggling with truly is that everybody's consciousness is at a different place. And what I need to do is bring everybody to the same launch pad, so that when I share about the violet consuming flame to clean, clear, cleanse, heal, harmonize, and balance, that we're all on the same page, and I don't want anyone to be left behind. And so my struggle is I've been studying this for 40 plus years, and it's like, I don't want to insult anyone and go way back, but I need to be able to teach people to trust themselves to get the right answer. And some people use a pendulum for dowsing, for the yes or the no, or the true or the false. Some people, use their own body to muscle test. I personally pretend like this is my deltoid muscle, and I just push my middle finger down on my index and I ask, true or false.
That's interesting. I've never heard that one.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's your arm, but it's your finger, and you just practice with it. Like, show me truth and it stays strong. Show me false and it goes weak. And, things like that. And so that's what I mean. There's so many ways to teach muscle testing or what's true. Access consciousness does a really cool thing where your body is pretty much the pendulum. And it doesn't lie. I know that's true. Your body never lies. It tells you, like your stomach. I
totally agree.
Really tight, right? Oh, this is not good, or anger or fear or whatever. Or when you're happy, it just all lifts up like gravity comes off of you somehow. So getting into the pattern of asking questions and trusting the answer is a great exercise. And so I've started this work with an ebook, like trying to do the whole outline and then fill it in and really expand upon each section so that nobody's struggling, with their mind to try and understand what's going on, that they just really get the foundational skills to trust their own intuition. Mm-hmm. And if I could plug myself for 1 second, my girlfriends and we wrote this book called The Magi Within, Unlocking of the Inner Self. And we wrote it together, and we each wrote a chapter, A through Z, and it's all about connecting to the intuition. It's a workbook. So if you pick the letter K, like A through Z, and you picked K, well, K is kindness. And we wrote a whole chapter on kindness and how, like, if that morning you opened up the book automatically to the K, to kindness, you would trust the universe, read that excerpt, answer the questions, and then you would just be with kindness all day long. And it's a way of teaching people to connect to their inner world. Like if you were driving and you were late for work and somebody cut you off, are you going to be like, you know, or are you going to be kind? You know, it just looks at it at
Yes.
all these angles, and it just really, the truth is all the power is on the inside of us. It's in the inner realms. It's trusting our inner nature and our own divinity. And that would be a foundational thing to teach people to really play with their own intuition. And on my website, traceywhittet.com, you can buy this book on Amazon, which is great, or you can get it for free, but you would download a PDF of the work. So it is free on the website under book, but it's really teaching, empowering people to be who they really are, trust what they know to be true, whether they hear it tactily, you know, they hear it, they feel it, they smell it, they know it. There's all those senses, and we're all unique, and nobody's better or worse. It's just like, how my challenge is, how do I express it in a way that people really embody it and can use it for themselves and clean themselves every morning and like connect to themselves. And there's so many things, like when I worked with you, we did the healing touch, and you just clean up the chakras and get them moving again. Simple, empowering tools that we can do for ourselves.
Wow.
Makes people feel better. It's, you know, energy is designed to flow and move, and we get stagnant sitting, and me, you know, sitting at my desk in corporate America, or not being true to myself. But it's all perfect, you know, it's all divine timing. And I wouldn't really change much, because I wouldn't be in this moment with you right here now, sharing what I know from, and I used to never talk about this stuff, you know, the discrimination thing in corporate America. Now I feel like, why not? Why not be who I am? And it helps people. And I want to heal the world, but I can't do it by myself. I would love somebody in each household to know how to do this so they can work with each other. And I think energy medicine is the future. It's just a feeling. It really feels to be, that's who we are. It's our essence. And if it gets stuck or blind, I mean, acupuncture, chiropractic, all of that was, well, acupuncture is very ancient. So is chiropractic. But in the AMA world, you know, American Medical Association, it's like, oh no, that's woo-woo. And now that's mainstream. So perhaps trusting consciousness to lead us into new frequency medicine, whether it's coming through a human's body or a piece of equipment, whether it's a laser light, whatever, you know, I'm open to it all. And I actually kind of trust it a little bit more, because there aren't any side effects. That's why I call it soul homeopathy, because there aren't any side effects. It's only coming through at the exact right frequency and potency that is perfect for the individual. And I think that we all have this ability, and I just need to synthesize all this information into an easy to not grasp, but retain and embody and practice with. So
and navigate through.
Huh?
And navigate through, right? Something that people can use as a guide or as an instruction manual almost, it sounds like.
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
It'll probably be an online course to start, and maybe do it in person. You know, it's been weird with COVID, so do everything online for now, and see how it can be in person. I mean, I would love to teach classes in person, but it's still kind of tenuous with the world.
But you can touch so many more people too, like when you're doing things online, right? It's like there's no borders to the physical geography. Just kind of, it's limitless in a way, so you can touch way more people.
Yeah,
it's just fascinating. And the more we talk, the more I realize how deep your knowledge is, and how, you know, in a way wide, but also how deep it is, and how much time you've spent studying in combination with your natural gifts. So can we talk a little bit about your design, just briefly, and just curious, you know, since human design is one of the areas of my work, and I'm always fascinated how people kind of find themselves and kind of live as themselves, and kind of really step into their power, especially women. So you are a generator, and you're 6'2", and you have a right angle cross. So right angle cross. So that means, you know, you're here, sorry, left angle cross. I apologize. Okay. A left angle cross. So you're here to help others. And really kind of your life, you're here to share your knowledge and to share your gifts with others, versus a right angle destiny, which is more about kind of their own process. So when you learned about your design, which I think you told me was a few years ago, was
Right.
there anything new, or even more than that? Was there anything new? Was it helpful for you, or did you intuitively already feel that you pretty much know and kind of
It was
are very connected?
very helpful, especially the strategy for life, like wait to respond, because I would create havoc and chaos by just doing something without waiting to respond and getting if it's a yes or a no. If it's a yes, then your life is smoother. And yeah, I was working at Roche, Colorado. I was a temp or something at that time. And human design came to me then. And then I met a woman who does it for her living. And she gave me a recording. And one of the things that sticks in my mind, because I don't really know the channels too well, but I do know that I think it was my heart and my head were open, so they're not defined. So I can kind of like sway to whichever way my environment is. And the thing that stuck with me was, she goes, let's say you're writing and you have writer's block. She suggested that I go to a coffee house because other people in my environment's energy could fill in that channel that wasn't halfway filled in, and it would allow the information or the energy to flow. Or that's how I think I understood it. The way to respond was a huge thing, because I am very impulsive. Okay, let's do it. Oh, wait, I said yes, and I really meant no. Because I've said yes, people pleaser kind of a person or whatever.
Yes, of course. Yeah, it all happens.
And then it's
to
like,
us.
I knew I shouldn't have come here today. I didn't really want to come to this party or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. So trusting yourself is the biggest thing. And again, it's like human design. It gives you structure to what you already are, but it helps illuminate and almost gives me permission to be who I am. Like, because I was such a looking outside and working in corporate, and I know this isn't me, but I'm going to find myself somehow. And it human design really gives you your I almost want to say the molecules of who and what you really are. And when it's reflected to you and you know this, it's like, oh, well, that feels right. That feels good. How come I didn't get that before? It's really interesting information and energy. I think, what is his name?
Rahu.
He was amazing to bring that algorithm through. And I do have the body graph. I just need to spend some time with it because I really wanted to learn more and go deeper with it. So I'm excited about. And I learned the 626 was something about being up on the roof. I'm not supposed to be in the cave this lifetime. I'm supposed to come down the mountain and be with the people and have an ordinary life. Like, no, I like meditating in the cave.
Yeah. Well, and you could, like, because you have the 6-2, so you have the hermit and the unconscious, and you do need that alone time to really cultivate your gift and to kind of be that pearl, that, or the kind of to be away from a lot of light and from a lot of noise, so that you can actually hear your own voice, the voice of your intuition. And hermits are usually called out of the cave. But as a 6, you would live your life as a 3 up until you're 30. So probably lots of challenges and lots of ups and downs, as we call them, and just lots of experiences, so that you accumulate that until about 30. And then at 30, usually it's about being on the roof. So kind of being more of an observer, being slightly aloof and watching from the top of the roof, kind of how the world is working, so that you can accumulate that experience and become the role model. Because 6 is that's the last line. So that's really about being a teacher and the role model, where people come to you and they want your wisdom. And I could see that that's where you need to be seen, or at least show up, so that people kind of know who they come to, or that you have this knowledge, right? Because how else are they going to know?
Right.
That you have it. So it's so interesting that you would say, and it sounds like it was in the 90s, sometime in the 90s, that you found out about human design. Well, way earlier than I did, that's for sure.
Oh.
Or most people, really, because I find that human design has become sort of the widespread thing, I would say, in the last 3-4 years, and I found it about a little over 7 years ago. So it has been a journey, and I wish I knew it 20 years ago. But I guess, I believe in the divine timing, like you said. So I think, that I wasn't ready or it wasn't the right time. But when it was the right time, it was definitely the right time. I mean, I use the system a lot,
Is
in
the
my life.
what's the two about? Is that relating to one other person or something?
The hermit. It's the hermit. So it's
Oh,
the kind of the hermit is the second line. So the hermit is about the gene keys. In gene keys, it is about relating to the other person. It's about the
that's
partnership. But in human design, it's more around being kind of your having natural gifts. And that's where I think when you're talking about having those gifts of being able to channel or having the strong intuition or the clairaudient ability, you are so natural with it that you don't even know that's a gift, right? And that's the thing about the hermit, that the hermit needs things reflected to them or kind of be reminded of their gifts because they're so natural that it's just, you don't even see them as a gift because they're just an extension of who you are. And so it's very interesting for a hermit to be around others and to kind of sometimes even let others reflect to you and mirror back to you what you offer. That's why I listen to you and you're so natural, and even in the way how you explain this work that you do, because I find that with energy, a lot of people are amazing at what they do, but they cannot really they cannot clearly explain what they're doing in a way that a normal person can understand. And I don't consider myself normal either, but at least somebody with kind of like on a certain level of consciousness can understand. And I find that you are so articulate, and so you have such an ability to kind of to do the work, but also to explain it and to kind of and to be very clear and very conscious about it. So
yes.
that I find is an interesting combination, because again, I just find that most people who are gifted in the energy work are not necessarily so gifted sort of with the logical mind. But I also think that it's also our limiting belief that if you have one ability, it kind of negates the other. I think, science and energy and consciousness can totally exist together.
Yes. It's kind of like whole brain thinking, if you will, the right brain, the left brain,
Yes.
balanced, it's whole. And that's the goal, I think, is holistic health. How can you be in balance? If you had a circle with a square X in the middle or a cross, it's physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. They all need to be in balance. I feel I know they need to be in balance, and things get out of balance. But you can always pull yourself back to neutral. I mean, that would be the ideal space to be in all the time, is
Yes.
neutral, and you're balanced and you're not like charged positively or negative. It's like getting out of the duality. Maybe the Buddhists call it the middle way, but it's like truly being like, even when I'm working, when I was learning this energy work through the multidimensional body balancing, sometimes my mind would get involved and it'd be like, I wanted it so bad for the other co-student that we were learning to clear something that I would get charged.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we were taught is to go back into your heart, return to neutral. And that's like connecting to the earth, coming back all the way back up and connecting to source and returning to your heart, return to neutral. So I kind of shorten the mantra when I feel myself getting anxious, like I want it, like codependent, like I want it more than the client does.
Yes.
And I just return to neutral. And then it's like, because that's when you are truly the vehicle. You're the vessel of 100% pure divine light, and you're there to be of service. It's very sacred work. It's not, I'm just kidding now, but it's not like swinging a chicken over your head. It's not phenomenal. It maybe the results could feel phenomenal to the soul or to the individual, but it's very sacred. And I take that. Thank you for saying that about my energy or purity or something, because I take it very serious. If I'm learning Reiki, and if you're mixing in other things, I tell someone this is now access consciousness, or this is that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, when I was learning this work, we were silent, and I'm kind of have a mercurial mind. It's like, well, what's going on, and this and that, and and they might say, oh, this or that. So I personally like to know what's going on, which is why I personally record it, so someone else knows what's going on. Otherwise, I think it brings up my trust issue, if I want to be really real with you here, that like, do they know what they're doing? What are they doing? It's all silent in here, and I'm kind of feeling some tingling over here, but I'm not sure, you know, but I feel like it could comfort someone to know what I'm experiencing with them in the session, so that they can relax deeper and just receive it. It's kind of like messages from the divine. In this work I studied called Creative Wellness, I was mid-20s, holistic stress management. It changed my life. And I still use it to this day, whether it's gems and stones, Bach flower remedies, colors, nutrition, all of that based on applied kinesiology. Are you a thyroid, adrenal, or pancreas type? And how your personality affects your health. So I've always been fascinated with systems and programs that help us unlock our genius, like who we really are, like so that we can be the best we can be. Even in corporate America, I was doing process improvement, like, okay, let's work smarter, not harder. And I just think that way. So maybe it's that anal retentive organizational ability.
Well, it's interesting. Well, you know, we'll definitely look at your design a little bit more, because there must be something in there that has to do with channel structuring, or something to do with efficiency and seeing what's not working. There's a few of those channels.
Oh, interesting.
And a body graph.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah. And I love what you just shared, and it's totally new to me. So I'm not sure if we need to kind of do a separate, what you shared about the pancreas, thyroid, and something else. I've never heard of it. So it's like totally new knowledge, which is really piquing my curiosity. I'm not sure if it's going to take a long time to go into it.
It's holistic stress management, and it's based on your glands and your primary glandular weakness. And how is your personality created? It's created through three things: your genetic code, what you inherited.
Yes, of course.
Your lifestyle, your environment, your lifestyle conditioning. But then the third part are your own moral choices, like things that you chose to do. And it is a whole system. And Michelle Luson, Doctor of Divinity, she's probably in her 80s now. She was way before her time.
Wow.
And she brought this through with some scientists, some chiropractors and things. And you know who's actually really made popular the work that she did, that I experienced this, is Joseph Dispenza. Joe Dispenza describes holistic stress management on the inner with the neurons and how everything moves in the body. So I think Joe Dispenza kind of made it more popular, because when I heard him speak in Denver, Colorado, I'm like, oh my God, he's talking creative wellness. This is so cool. I actually left my Xerox job and went to school full time to learn about endocrinology and all of that, so that I could understand deeper of this work that she's talking about. Because it's like your nervous system connects to the endocrine system, which connects to the chakra system. So, and it's all along the spine, and it's just all works together. So I'm looking back at my life, and I see that everything that I studied is kind of coming to fruition through what I call transmosis, because we are whole. It's all one integrated thing, and we are that essence of the universe. I mean, we're all one thing, but it's working with the invisible. You know, someone asked me actually on Sunday, he said, how would you describe energy work? You know, what is energy work? And it's like, oh, it's an interesting question. And it's like, well, you're working with energies that you can't see. Some people can because they're clairvoyant, but it's just energies that are there, that exist. I mean, it's mysterious. It's, you know, are we really, we're all one? How does that work? You know, the brain can just kind of short circuit all of that truth that we feel and know. But Creative Wellness is a book, and I don't think it's in print anymore, but I think I can teach it. But that was something I wanted to do, is teach corporate America holistic stress management. And I tried to do that at a complementary care kind of a place up in Loveland, Colorado, and it was still too soon. Like, it was still too way out there for them, you know. So I don't know. And it was just so helpful. It is so helpful. I was Iris. I tested to be Iris, goddess of the rainbow, who's the natural intuitive. It's like, oh, so my glandular weakness is pituitary adrenal. I'm an adrenal type. I get burned out easy. And if I look at my family's history genetically,
Yes.
I had peripheral artery disease. My father had heart attack, so it's systemic, but it works for the individual. It's fascinating work. It's great work. And that would be the other course I should bring through.
I think you should, because everything, first of all, like I've studied so many different things and this is a whole new way, but it totally makes sense.
Doesn't it?
Absolutely. Because I mean, everything I know, and I studied to be a doctor, which, never sort of came to fruition in my life, but I know the anatomy and, sort of the energy bodies, and it totally makes sense how the endocrine system would affect the nervous and the other way around. And I think I'm the adrenal as well. I think I burn out quickly. Like I think is pretty much, intuitively, that's what it feels. Definitely would be one of mine. So it's fascinating. And I would be the first person to sign up. So I think, honestly, the more we talk, and we've spent time talking about different things, and like all of these things are coming up, and I'm just absolutely fascinated. I think you have so much to learn. So I'm hoping that you can start putting this information together and sharing that, because I think a lot of this, I mean, it sounds like you've been spending years and years and years going deep into this knowledge, into studying this way before it became kind of a knowledge, like more information is spreading now, but it sounds like you were way before your time, or before the
internet anyway, right?
Before the internet, yeah.
That was like mid-90s, I think, when AOL came out, and I was like,
yes.
Oh, this is cool. What's this?
So if I were to ask you, Tracey, like kind of, now looking back, and I know you said, there's many things you've done, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Don't take life so seriously. I was very hard on myself. It's like, oh, I got to get this right, kind of a thing. And, that's a really interesting question, because it's like, if I could tell her, trust yourself, just trust, you do know what you know. And that because I had this, and maybe I still do have this pattern outside, that you guys, everybody else besides me, knows what they're doing in their life, and I don't. So it's kind of like an insecurity or a worth thing or confidence thing. And why I came in with that, I don't know. I don't know if my family seemed to be fairly loving, but then again, you're like a fish in water. You think your family's healthy until you have contrast and find out, oh, maybe not so much, kind of a thing. So I would just say, love yourself and be kind to yourself. Really, that would be the nicest thing to say, is to be kind to myself, because I was pretty rough, but that's that I'm going to get this right kind of an attitude growing up, and I'm going to feel comfortable in my own skin no matter what, and I'm getting there. I really am. I'm fascinated how long it takes humans to grow up, to really know who they are and connect. I think I'm a late bloomer.
Well, I mean, you look so young. Honestly, it's like,
thank you.
I just think that I believe that we kind of live our life in stages, and this is kind of the stage of you being like, blooming, but also sharing this knowledge and stepping out into like in your full power and your full expression. Is the amount of information, but also the amount of energy, and just you being you, it already makes a difference. And just everything that you've shared, I'm just in awe. And I'm hoping that you can bring this work forward, that you're not going to change your mind, and go and kind of, travel the world. And because I think the world needs your energy, the world needs your light, and the world needs this knowledge as well. Because I think just imagining, kind of having a course that can help people look after their energy, I think the world would be at so much better place. As I always say, even with human design, if everybody knew and lived according to their design, according to their strategy,
yes,
the world would be such a different place today.
I'm thinking kindergartners, if we could start really young, so that they just love the heck out of themselves, and teach them blessings to the adults. They're doing the best they can, but that whole stuff about the wounds that we can get, like shame and taking it personal and all of that You know, I used to teach my stepchildren, and my son, I would say, hey, you know, check it out. Don't assume that I know what I'm doing. And I didn't say it like that, but it was like, if you think a certain way, it could be a misperception, you know, and to check it out.
Yes.
Communicate and to be honest and authentic and real, because that's what our world needs, is sovereignty, like who we really are to come forth. And we're brilliant. We just follow the news and things like that when we're younger, or watch silly shows or something. So, whoops.
I also think, oh, she's cute. But also I think as parents, you know, it's sometimes, like you said, being honest, right? And not pretending. Because I think as parents, we do fly by the seat of our pants a lot. And sometimes we don't have the confidence to admit it to our kids. And maybe in certain times it's not a good idea to admit it to our children. But other times, especially when they're older and they start seeing through this stuff, we start looking silly when we continue pretending. So sometimes it's good to just come out clean and say, you know what, I don't know 100% what I'm doing, or, you know, but I'm doing my best. But, you know, being able to be the adult in a relationship, I sometimes feel that parents struggle, and our kids are our best teachers. They will point out and they will trigger us in the moments, in the times when, or places where we need that growth and expansion.
Yeah.
So,
they are innocent and they see the world that way. I remember my son was like, I was picking him up from daycare, and it was a beautiful sunset that night, and my stepfather had passed away. And out of the mouth of babes, you know, he's looking out at the sky and he goes, Mom, are the angels celebrating because they have a new angel tonight? And I'm like, yes, that is so beautiful. Just the way he saw the world in that moment was just beautiful, just stunning, such a sweet, tender heart, you know. And our children can teach us a lot. We're not the boss of them. I mean, they came through us, but to teach them and do the role model thing of like how to be a healthy, happy human being.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think, like you said, sovereignty and boundaries. I think a lot of us have not been taught good boundaries, so we struggle and we don't teach our kids boundaries well. And then it becomes this kind of mishmash of, you know, the parents who are not good with boundaries. Like you said, you know, sometimes we're pleasers and we learn, it takes us forever to learn to say no. You know, we have this good girl thing. And then our kids are learning and modeling that. And then, you know, we try to learn boundaries, and they, you know, it's just, if we were to even like take our time and do it, work on our personal growth and development as parents, as our kids are growing up, I think that would make a big difference in the world as well, and take some responsibility.
That's key. Really? It sounds like doing homework or something when you're a student, but it's like our health, our outlook on life, our experience of life, we really are self-responsible. But it could be fun. It could be through like creative wellness, where you don't wear red around your throat because you're a thyroid type or whatever, you know what I mean? It can be fun. It doesn't have to be eat your peas and carrots and never have chocolate cake, you know? Don't ever have fun, you know. It's self-responsibility doesn't have to be like homework. That's drudgery. Some people probably love homework, but I hear the word responsibility and it's like, one more thing I have to do. And it's not that. It's really self-love. And I learned when I was 25 that everything is cumulative. Everything that we do in our bodies is cumulative. So I've always been interested in organic food and exercise and natural holistic health. I don't know why. Maybe in a past life I had all that and I'm just examining it further now. And in this body, I don't really know how it works. I know that I know nothing.
Wow. Well, I think you know a lot, but what I find is the more we know, the more we realize we know so little.
Exactly. That's brilliant right there. That sums it up right there. Life manual.
Yeah, exactly. No.
Picking it up as we go and doing the best we can. And I think that about people that have had a really hard life. When I worked in quality at the prison system and they did healthcare I was a contractor, they, when you read the, what do you call that? Coroner's report, like if someone passes away and you read their medical history, you're like, oh my gosh, no wonder this person ended up in prison. You know, this is just horrendous the amount of darkness that's in the world, the abuse and things like that. But I know for a fact that light always prevails. Light is at level 10, and the 9 through 1 could be called the dark in any way you want to describe it, but the light always prevails. And if we could focus on that and live life focused on light or truth, our truth, then hopefully I have hope for humanity.
Me too. Well, I know we've taken a lot of your time, and I just love this interview and our conversation. Thank you so much for sharing. So one last thing before we close off. I mean, you have so much knowledge and so much depth of knowledge around all of these things that you've shared. Is there one thing that you would say, or a couple of things that you can share with our audience that would be helpful for energy hygiene, that could be kind of summed up, some of the advice or some of the practical tips before we wrap up the interview?
I would say every morning, like when you wake up, and whatever works best for you, that works into your lifestyle, and you're racing out of the house in the morning with children or yourself or whatever, but to connect within with yourself. And that can be as simple as through the breath, breathing in and out the heart chakra in the front and the back, and just connect. And I declare myself a vehicle for the divine. It's just a kind of an affirmation. I declare myself a vehicle, and anyone can use whatever their belief system words are. I connect to God, a creator, source, Holy Spirit, Jesus, whatever your higher beings are. And I always recommend calling in 100% pure divine light. If it's Archangel Michael, if it's the angels, whatever your spirit guides and animals and all of that is. So number one is to really connect to yourself through the breath, and then ask, show me what is in my highest and greatest good. And so if you had a pain in your left knee, you could ask the beings of light, 100% pure divine light, to please, and these are the words, clean, clear, cleanse, heal, harmonize, and balance my left knee with the violet consuming flame. It's violet consuming flame will clean, clear, cleanse, heal, harmonize, and balance whatever you feel might be imbalanced. And then after you do that, you trust that it happened, and then you heal and seal it with liquid golden light. And our wounds look like counterclockwise going into the body spirals. So you heal and seal with liquid golden light, activating upward spirals, reversing any and all implosions, contractions, and shearings. And then anchor and hold with divine protection. And you could just imagine yourself in a rainbow light waterfall, purify and cleanse me, bring me to present time and guide me. You're basically reparenting yourself. You're basically healing yourself.
Yes.
With light and with your higher power or beings of light. So I know those were a lot of words, but you could just say that protocol and sequence Tracey said for my left knee. And then you always thank the tools, the light tools and the guides in yourself. Yes. And then pause and reflect and center, go back to neutral if you find yourself charged throughout the day. And just ask to be guided, and you will be. It's true, that thing about ask and you shall receive. It's really true.
Beautiful. Wow, Tracey, thank you. I mean, I'm going to pause the recording afterwards, and I'm going to write down what you shared. And I'm sure some people from our audience will do the same, because this was incredible, and so much amazing information, so much helpful advice and guidance here.
I want to see practical divinity.
Yes. And that's maybe that's what you can call your course, practical divinity.
Yeah.
Practical divinity for every day. Like it sounds so, I mean, I would take that course, because I'm all about practical. I'm all about practical. I think knowledge is great, but if you can't really apply it, it's not always helpful. So, and the world is full of knowledge, but it's not everything is applicable. So when when that information can be practically applied to make our lives better.
Yes. Yep. It's self-empowerment. It's embodiment of the divine. We should all be souls walking around in our skin suit, you know? I mean, really being that high frequency of the essence of who we really are, and then treating it as such. You know, it
Yes.
really is a vessel. It really is something to love and care for. And it doesn't have to be drudgery, or I always say like homework, but some people like homework. Yeah, because you feel better. You're happier. You're lighter.
And we would see others that way too, even if with all of their imperfections, right? And whatever they're playing out, whatever story is playing out for them, we would be able to see that purity and divinity in them. If we're able to first and foremost see it within ourselves. Absolutely.
It's all love. No matter what energy work you're working with, to me, it's all love. You can call it whatever you want, Reiki, healing touch, theta healing. It's all love. It's connecting with who we really are, the essence of who we really are. And, you know, you can do shortcuts. You can be creative. Hey, just clean my essence right now, here and now. Thank you. Return to neutral. Okay, good. I'm done.
Oh, I love it.
Just make it up.
That's cool. Yeah. Make it up as you go along. But also, you know, what you've shared there, the cleanse, and I think that's also helpful. So I'm definitely going back to write it down. Thank you so much for your time. This was amazing. Really appreciate it. And I'm hoping that we can do more.
Sure.
You know, like maybe even like something more practical and applicable that people can use around their hygiene. So we can definitely come back and do some more.
I love you, Yeugenia. Thank you.
Oh, I love you too. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
This was amazing.